It's time for the Behind the Shot Image Critique number 15. Hi, as always, welcome to Behind the Shot. Nice to have you with us today. Today is Image Critique Show number 15. I've got my regular co-host with me. Bring him in a second. We've got a great guest today that I'm super excited about, and I will tell you why I'm super excited coming up in just a sec. But I do want to remind you that if you are new to Behind the Shot, first of all, these critique shows, they are only available here on YouTube. But the normal podcast, you can find all the information on Behind the Shot at behindtheshot.tv. You can subscribe wherever you get your podcasts in audio format or video format, assuming that your podcast app, like Apple Podcasts, supports video. There is a video version as well. When you search for Behind the Shot, you'll see two of them, Behind the Shot and Behind the Shot Video. Subscribe to the one that you prefer. Also, if you are watching the regular show, or for that matter, this critique show here on YouTube, please do me a favor. Down below, click the subscribe button and click the bell and choose all. That way, every time we go live, that way, every time I post anything, you know, and all of that type of stuff. If you want to get in on the critique show, we'll tell you how to do that coming up a little bit. And to those images that we have today and the makers of those images, thank you very much. And that brings us to my my regular cohort for this, Don Komarechka. Don, how are you, buddy?
I'm great, Steve, aside from the technical difficulties I had, because I made the silly decision to install a new USB hub right before this. And
it's strange that a USB hub caused you the problems that you were having.
You know, but we're not going to get into that. We're over that hump right now.
Forward momentum. Forward momentum. For those of you that don't know Don, who doesn't know Don? Don is the host of Photo Geek Weekly, a bunch of other stuff. We'll talk about all of Don's stuff, everything he's doing for DP Review TV coming up in a little bit. But I do want to, because he's on the camera here, I got to bring Alan Hess in, our special guest participant panelist for today. Alan, how are you, my friend?
I'm good. How are you guys?
Doing very good. We're going to get into you in detail at the break about halfway through, but I do want to mention for those that don't know Alan, go follow Alan. It's Alan Hess on Instagram. It's Shot Live Photo on Twitter. And Alan is a photographer, an author that's, how many books have you done now? 16. Okay, so you're halfway to Rick Salmon.
Yeah, I'm halfway to Rick. I used to be Rick Salmon's technical editor on a bunch of his books. I don't know if that counts or not. So
did you really?
Yep. Cool. Yeah, his HDR books and some of the old stuff he did with Wiley. I was his technical editor. That's actually how Rick and I met way back when.
Okay, so at the break, we'll talk more about what Alan is doing in and around the world. But I do want to just say this really quick because I'm super excited Alan is here. So for those of you that don't know Alan Hess is a live music photographer, but everything else. He shoots pets. He used to run the concert pre-con at Photoshop World, and is literally in what I shoot, which is live music. Alan is one of my heroes in this industry. One of the people that I've always looked up to and admired greatly. So to have him on this show is kind of special to me. So I appreciate your being here. The Flickr. Don, do you want to do this time? Do you want to tell people how they can get in on the image critiques?
I don't have a choice now. Yeah, so if you go to the Behind the Shot Flickr group, which you can find everywhere on behindtheshot.tv, and it might be in the notes or the description for what we're doing right now. I'm sure it's easy enough to find us. And while you're there, and you don't have to have a pro Flickr account. You don't have to pay for it. Just sign up and start submitting images to the group. And that's for casual discussion. That's fine. We can have some off-the-air talks and commentary about your work. But if you want us to have the potential to talk about it on this broadcasting format, then you have to put in a tag. Flickr, it's not a hashtag. It's just a tag. So just BTS critique. Just add that to your image, which kind of gives us permission to add that to the potential pool of images that we select 9 of every episode. And so we have 9 of those images submitted in exactly that format today, and would like to see yours the next time.
Yeah, and so do join in. And real quick, before I bring up the first image, I think I mentioned John Brown was in here as well, but we've got Kunal is in here, and Terry stopped by too. So Terry, glad that you made it, and Kunal, hello to you as well. So that brings us up to the first image, and Alan, as our guest, we always have the guest go. I know, and I always tell myself I really should warn them first. And I'm like, no, because that reaction is worth it right there. The first image The first image is ready, set. What do you got?
It's cute. All right. So so full disclosure, I got these last night and I looked through them quickly because I was like, oh, I don't want to, ruin it and the rest of it. But my first impressions are usually the ones that stick with me the most. So when I went back through them again right before the show started, I thought this was a really cute snapshot photo because I know what the person thought when they saw this. They got the reflection, the colors, all that is great, but there is way too much space above the subjects. To me, there's like that skyline, like halfway in the frame, and all the blue above it is just incredibly wasted amount of frame. And one of the things that I really dislike, especially in my own photography, is when I waste space in an image. I think everything needs to have like, oh, if there's a lot of space there, then it needs to be there for a reason. And in this case, it's not there. So while I think it's a cute shot, I think you could have really improved on the composition by moving a little bit so their faces were a little bit more visible and cropping in. And I hate other people cropping my images. That's one of the things that I have in like writers when I work for like AP or something. Like, you cannot crop an image of mine because the way I send it is the way it needs to be looked at. But if I was looking at this on my computer, I definitely would be bringing that top part of the image would just disappear. There's no reason to have nearly half of the image to be a plain, flat, boring blue sky. And it is just... So the other part of my head immediately went to, hey, Photoshop's got a new tool called sky replacement. And I would be like, if I needed to keep this frame exactly like this, I'd at least throw in some clouds in there. I'd have something in there that at least had a little bit of act to it. I love the reflection in the shallow water. I think that's great. I even like the poses, and the shutter speed is high enough to freeze the little water droplets off of the person. So you're getting that little like... You're really freezing the action. I know the excess data here, 1/1600th of a second. All that is good. But yeah, there's just way too much sky for me.
So you said so many things that struck a note with me. And one of them being, it's okay to have space as long as it's there for a reason. Like if you're putting this on a 2-page spread of a magazine and you know that they're going to put copy there, right? Then, okay, go for that. But in this case, I do like that your colors are vibrant without going too far. I like that you got down to their height, that you didn't shoot down on them. I mean, that's fantastic. I also love that the horizon, if you're going to have that there, is above midline. But I got to agree with Alan on a lot of things. The sky is just, the sky is dead here. It could use some clouds. Replace them if you replace them. I can't stress this enough. If you go in and replace those clouds and you just pick a random set of clouds that somebody shot straight up at, the perspective will be wrong. Right. So if you're going to replace them, get the right perspective. And even then, I'd take a third to a half of that sky out. The sand, clean it up. I mean, I agree this is very snapshot. If I could, the girl that's getting ready to run, if I could see at least one of her eyes, that would actually bring this image way better, really, really fast. But in the bottom left, there's like a shell or something, and same kind of to the right and up a little bit. I would clean the sand up a little bit, but yeah. Don, what do you got?
So again, I love the pose, but it's also indicative of, somebody's cheating. Somebody's gotten a head start because they're the one that said go and the other person is delayed.
Said the father of a daughter. Yes.
Yes. So, as roughly the same age. And I agree that negative space is a valuable thing in a photograph, but something has to point to it, right? And so if you had like a cresting wave that really splashed up into a curve that connected into the sky, that would be a connection to that space. Or, and to Alan's point, you can replace the sky, but in this image, Alan, that would be a really hard thing to do because you also have to replace the reflection in the sand to mimic that properly. And I know Photoshop has the easy tool on the top, but not necessarily
not
as
on the
easy
bottom,
of a job with that interaction with everything else there. So there's that in terms of how you can massage the image, maybe make it more vertical. But along the shoreline, you might find an area of waves that are a little bit more tumultuous, something that maybe there's a boulder out there or something that things are going to crash against, a pier or something like that. And so then you might be able to have the opportunity of that kind of cresting, splashing wave into the sky to reconnect those elements. And there's nothing you can do about that in post. That has to be done in the moment to understand how all of these ingredients fit together. And a couple of energetic kids, they're willing to run down the beach. I mean, there's no question about that. That's that's a tool at your disposal to find an environment that might help the connectivity of all of these different ingredients together. But you have to think about that in the moment.
I agree. And actually, Gary said it would be interesting. Where is it? It would be interesting, abstract, if everything other than the reflection in the sand
I
was
thought
cropped
that too
out
at first, but then I thought about the integral ingredients, about them racing toward the incoming waves. And I think that's a really important part of the story. And if that gets negated from the frame, then the story isn't told the right way. Now, that's not to say that you can't frame it that way. But again, it's nothing that you can do in post to get the reflections and the waves interacting. It has to be your idea in the moment to make that happen.
Well, and you could literally crop below the top of the water and in from both sides and make it just the girls, the waves, and the sand. And I actually think if you're not going to replace the sky and work on the reflection, I actually think in many ways that would be better, for me.
If you crop down and you just bring the top of that image down, never mind the sides. If you just crop it down so that the top crop is just below the top of the waves, you have a stronger image.
Instantly.
And you don't have to keep it 4:3 or you can. This is one of the things that is really hard in my head to get over because I'm so used to having everything be the exact same size because I have to send them to clients the exact same size. But done for home, it doesn't matter if it's nice and long and skinny, or the crops don't matter much anymore. We're getting them on a screen. If you're going to print it out and put it above a frame somewhere, you don't need all that blue up there. You can just get rid of it and you've got a much stronger composition just the way it is.
I completely agree with you.
Yeah.
All right. So image number 2, Don, you want to get us started on Happy Holidays 2020.
Sure. I mean, this is such a fun image. I as a macro photographer, I know the subjects and compositions. I mean, I haven't played with Baby Yoda yet. In fact, I haven't watched The Mandalorian, so there might be some message.
Wait, whoa.
Hey, I want to have Disney Plus on a subscription basis, and I have a 4.5-year-old daughter. However, she has not been indoctrinated into all of the Disney World yet, and I know that's a slippery slope, and as soon as I get that subscription, then I'm going to have to spend a lot of money on Disney-branded stuff.
Yes, that's true.
Yeah, that's true.
So I haven't gotten that yet. But okay, so looking at the core ingredients here, we have, I'm assuming a bounty hunter in the background again, I haven't watched The Mandalorian, so I don't know exactly how things connect, but you have this Baby Yoda with a Christmas ornament looking at this, snow globe, effectively. And so there's a few things about this that really connect with me. The subject matter being so small, but still telling a message in the story. The bokeh around the image that is like Christmas lights that are out of focus that just frame things really well. But there's a few points of improvement here. I don't know what to say about what looks like a coffee cup on the bottom of the snow globe. That just, I would have dressed that up Star Wars-y in some type of way, draw a droid on it or something. I don't care. But just some element that would help that connect. But, you've got all the fluff in the snow globe sitting on the bottom. How much difficulty would it have been to just take that up, shake it around, put it back down, and then snap the shot so you got some floating snow around in there? And I've dealt with glass orbs before, crystal balls, and they get scratched real easy. This one looks like it has some scratches on it, but it also has some fingerprints. Grab yourself a microfiber cloth and maybe a little cleaning solution or something, and just wipe that clean, and then edit any of the scratches out in post, just to really clean up that image. And yeah, the tree's a little bit out of focus, so does that really matter? Yeah, I don't think so. Macro shallowed up the field. You're not going to get everything. If the tree's in focus, then the outer edge of the coffee cup thing is, there's a balance there that you have to strike. And the fact that the background is out of focus but completely recognizable, it's got a nice, it has a nice balance to it. But I just think that some of the out of characteristic elements, what is Baby Yoda on? That looks like, I don't know, the corner of a printer. I have no idea what that is. It's just a nondescript object that could have been a little bit more Star Warsy. If you're going this far, go the extra mile is my point.
Yeah, and I agree. And I just got to say, Jane said maybe the coffee was needed to endure the movie or the show. So I like Mandalorian. There are things about Mandalorian I don't like. But in general, I really, really like Mandalorian. And here's a couple things I like about this shot. First of all, very timely. And you kept the Mandalorian vibe, and you kept the Mandalorian in the background identifiable, right? So the Mandalorian is watching Baby Yoda, as he always does, and Baby Yoda is just staring at some random object almost as though he wants to eat it. So, and if you've seen the show, you'll know what I mean by that. So I love all of that type of timely stuff. Yoda needs to be in focus, right? And pretty much could be better. The globe to me is what Dawn said. It needs to be A, cleaned, 2, shaken up. And more importantly, I don't care if you have to take a bunch of shots of the globe with lights in different positions and stitch them all together. I need those reflections out of the globe. I need to just see through that globe as though it was a really good controlled lighting situation. The Mandalorian in the background, I love that he's identifiable, that the mask is identifiable, the helmet. I wish that he was moved frame right, dead center, in between Yoda and the globe, so he wasn't hiding behind it a little bit. Here's my big thing. Are those gift tags that are on the little seat that Yoda is sitting on? I think they're gift tags or stickers or something, and those need to go. There's no reason to have those there.
And there's some fluffy clutter right next to them.
And there's like some hairs and stuff like that. And yeah, that. Looking at the edges, I don't mind the bokeh coming in above Yoda, but the one on the left and the one right above the snow globe are so small. They're less than half. I would take those out. They're more distraction than anything to me at that size. Last but not least,
Steve, I think. I mean,
say that again.
I don't want to take them out. Just diminish their saturation a little bit, because your eye goes right to the edge of the frame.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And
yeah, I agree with you. Pull them down. Do something to make them not compete with the ones that I can see a pattern kind of thing in there. Last but not least, and this is a short one, be careful with your processing. If you look at Yoda's back, there's a black line down Yoda's back. You need to be really careful with the processing you're doing on the background, and you're doing it globally, and it's affecting your subject. So there we go. Alan, what do you got?
So I love The Mandalorian because I love Star Wars and I'm a geek. And I got to say that the second season was better than the first. So if you're
I agree.
starting
totally
The Mandalorian, get through the first one. It makes a lot of sense, but the second one really takes off and it's great. And I love the shot. And when I first saw it, I was like, yeah, that's great. And then I started looking at all the little details because it started getting in closer. And the globe has to be shaken out. That big bubble on the top destroys the picture for me. I can't stop looking at it. I keep
once you realize that's a bubble, it's like, why is this faulty?
Right.
Exactly.
I like look everything else, and then my eye goes immediately back to that, and I realize it's a bubble. Everything's sitting on the ground. And I know that there's no physical way he could have shaken it up, but shake it up. It's not real. Make it, make that snow move, make that tree. And I would like the focus to be a little more on the actual tree in the globe. To me, that's
a good point.
Right. So because my eye is always drawn to the brightest, lightest, most in focus thing, I keep going to the cup lid below the snow globe. My eye just keeps going right to that spot, and that's not where you want me looking. So if that's not where you want someone to look, you need to do something about it, and that is either change the color, draw little C3POs on it, do something to change. Right. That looks like a Starbucks coffee cup with a snow globe sitting on it.
I don't know, Alan, if and you might know this, if Star Wars has any defined languages, like Star Trek has Klingon and so on, that have recognizable characters and things, where if you could write Merry Christmas in some Star Wars universe language, that would be fantastic.
Yeah, that would be good.
I guarantee you someone made it up, and there's definitely Star Wars fonts that you could have done to even do it in English. You know, there's the classic, a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away font, and you can just, it's out there. The next part that really just kind of, I really like the whole shot and build up, but I'm not a huge fan of the half bokeh Christmas lights on the edges that are like bisected, like they're drawing my eye up and to the side, and they shouldn't. You should either just have them in there as big floating globes. I'm good with big floating globes. Trust me, in the concert photography, big floating globes of light all over the background. I'm happy as hell. But cutting them in half means my eye goes to it and stops, and it never comes back into the frame. Other than that, I like it. Everything else you guys said, just clean it up a little bit. I would have come in a little closer, and so you don't see that. It looked like an arm of a couch that he's sitting on. And I thought that behind him, whatever that is, looked like a little remote control, like someone had left the TV remote control and he was sitting in front of it. But that's just what it looked like.
Really, that comes back to the same thing, and that is watch your edges and think about the stuff. It's just as important what you leave out.
Yeah, but this was shot at f5. That's very shallow for a macro shot where you're trying to get at least some things in focus. I got the bokeh, and it gives you the Mandalorian looks perfect in the background, recognizable, and yet, in the background. So that's great. But I would have worked a little bit harder on trying to get the subject I want in focus, because nothing really grabs me as this is the subject, except for the couplet, which is not great.
At least they didn't leave a Starbucks thing there. Before we jump to the next shot really quick, Gary said the last episode was, really full of awesomeness. Totally agree.
Yep.
Connor said, what is Star Wars? By the way, Connor, good to see you, buddy. I appreciate your stopping by. I know Connor. Never heard of it. Is that like Battlefield Earth? Okay.
Yes.
Ozzy's here. Ozzy Osbourne said Don loses all credibility until he watches The Mandalorian.
I'd say I lose some credibility. I'll take that. I'll watch it soon enough.
All right. So next one, I will go first on this one. And this one is called Tree on Fairy Lake. And a couple of things. First of all, I love the mist. There's almost a mystery to it, right? There's an exposure difference between what you see in the back and where that tree is, but there's enough. I like it. The saturation difference between the tree and the background, what I would argue is gentle processing on most of the image. Absolutely love that. I wish the sky was blue, or I shouldn't say blue. I wish that it was less white, right? I wish that it was less bright up above so that I could really take in that fog and haze across the trees. But as soon as I look at the fog and haze across the trees, I'm looking at that bright sky above it. I'm curious if you guys feel the same way. It feels, I don't think it is, but it feels leaning to the right, except for the tree on the far left, which is vertical. There's something about the shoreline and the rest of the trees that it feels not straight. And I'm a big proponent of, I want everything straight, but if it needs to not be straight to make it look straight, that's okay too, because the eye perceives things based on framing, etc. I think this shot, by the way, I love the concept of it. I think this shot in landscape would have been awesome rather than portrait mode. A little bit more room, but I suppose that's open to debate. Alan, what do you got?
Again, I there's too much white on the top and the bottom, because when I first saw it, I didn't even see the tree. I literally, my eye passed right over it, and I looked at the title and I went tree on, and I'm like, there's a tree down, and because my eye keeps getting drawn to the top, big bright spot and then when I try to look through the image, it immediately gets sucked all the way down to the bottom, and I'm again on that white band across the bottom. So I just would have cropped it in a little bit. I'm a huge proponent like the rule of thirds. I wrote books on composition stuff, and I break all those rules all the time because once I figured out what they were doing. But even when I zoom in on my screen to to look at some of the details, I realized that the first zoom, it was just coming right above the bottom of the image and was cropping just above the top of the trees on the top part, and it became a lot stronger immediately because I'm no longer trying to compete with those two big bright white areas. And I love the colors. I absolutely like, if these were what it looked like and you just got it out of camera, congratulations. If this is something you toned in some software, even better. I absolutely love the tones, but because of the two big bright white areas on the top and bottom, I miss some of the detail in the middle. And if I was scanning through these, like if they're on like a wall somewhere, or I was walking through a gallery, I would have been like, okay, and I would have started moving on before I think I even would have recognized how cool the actual tree is.
Yeah, and there's so much potential here, really, is what it comes down to, right? Don, what do you got?
I really need to get out to Port Renfrew, British Columbia, which is where this tree is, because it's famous enough that I know its location. And so Drake Dyck was there. Obviously, looks like he
and
was
is
there,
in the chat
in December, and so it's an iconic little tree, and I think that it's. As Alan said, it should be about the tree, but we've got that mist, that fog up. And I just pulled up the EXIF data of the image, and either Drake, you got your camera timestamp wrong, because it's saying you took this at 2:15 in the afternoon. I've got a hard time believing that there's still mist in the air in the mid-afternoon time, but that just tells me that this was probably taken later in the day than it should have been. I really want to get that mist next to that tree. Like, I want to have the connection of those ingredients, because you're framing them because they're both important, but they are disparate. Right. And so you need to have that that level of isolation from the background, where it kind of takes the background, makes it more subtle and less detailed, and have that surrounding that tree in order for it to jump up. Looks like it's got a fairly high water level here. I noticed in other images that I've seen of this tree that you can see the log that it's on a bit more pronounced, and some other stuff in the background. So that actually helps simplify the water level around the tree, where there's fewer distractions around it, which, to your benefit, you were there on the right day, but possibly not the right time. And that, I just think, I've never been there. I've never seen this scenario where you are walking to get to this tree. My personal approach, not knowing the terrain, would have tried to have gotten a little bit further away, zoomed in a little bit more, and framed everything more around the reflections on the water with a lower mist. And I don't care how early I have to set my alarm to get there, especially because it's a common location, and you might have to get there before everybody else, like camping out to photograph the firefall in Yosemite. Not quite to the same degree, but I would camp out if I had to. If I was going to go all the way to BC for this shot, and yeah, I believe he's based in Alberta, from what I remember of Drake, but it's not that far off, and it's closer for you to be able to make some sacrifices than it would for me in order to get there at the right time. Just timing and composition. And if I lived close to this tree, like there's waterfalls around me that I visited 20, 30 times. The first time I go there, it's a documentary image, right? Like it's purely explorative of the scene, but not really getting into the risky, more, what if kind of images. I wish I lived close enough to something like this that I could visit it 10, 20 times and just really explore the subject. And that's really where the magic is going to come from something like this. I think I would have probably made a very similar image to Drake if this was the first time I had visited such a scene, or the second or the third. And I only really get into my stride with a subject when it becomes so familiar to me. I've taken all of the basic images, and now I get to be creative, like sending my camera out on like a little pontoon with a wireless control and trying to get like right up underneath the tree and risk all of my camera gear in the water. I would do things like that after I had shot this enough times, and I'd come up with something truly interesting. I'm not even sure if that's allowed, but that's just where my thought process takes me. So
let me tell you, Drake is in the chat. Last name is pronounced Dyck, by the way. He said he got one in landscape, and of course, it's well-known tree, et cetera, and thanks for the input. He agrees on the sky. He told Don to come on out. And last but not least, Vancouver Island, he said it was the right time, rainy, misty all day. And it's actually a 90-minute drive for him. But Gary chimed in and said that they have this type of stuff all day long, at the right, I guess the best word would be time of year. So let's jump into the next one. And Alan, this one is for you, and it is called Image 1039.
I have a lot of Images 1039.
I know.
All right. I like this image. It's something that I would have seen and probably would have snapped to myself. I enjoy, it reminded me of a shot I took in New York when I saw these two people sitting in front of an open window, because I like taking pictures of people watching something unfold. What I think would make it stronger is if there wasn't so much space up in the corners. Your paraglider, hang glider people, there's two of them that I saw. It needs to be bigger. So again, to me, it becomes cropping and composition. I would have tried to put the people watching further into the bottom corner, and then I would have gotten rid of a bunch of stuff that's over on the other top corner and just made it so that the subject really popped out. And some of this ground here is just not really needed. I know in all the books, it's like, oh, it's coming in from the bottom corner, and it's a nice little leading line leading into the people. I don't think it would have made much difference if you would have taken a little bit of that out and kept the clouds coming in from the top. There's also, this would have been an image that I ended up bringing into Photoshop and dodging and burning a lot, because I would have tried to remove some of the big blank white areas of the clouds, and I would have tried to give it a little more, not quite texture, but a little bit more character. There's a lot of white going on, and then a lot of very bright blue. So you're competing with two different colors, and because of the bright blue, you lose that second little paraglider that's in that little hole before he just kind of disappears when you look at the picture overall. But yeah, I would have, this is something I would have taken, and I would have been really happy with it, and I probably would have printed it out and had it up in my house for a while, just because I really like these kind of shots. So, but I probably would have called this something other than Image 1039. Titles are important. They're just, it gives you something about the image to begin with. So, just calling something Image or whatever your camera called it, just, needs a little bit of you change a little bit. Other than that, I like it. I really, like I said, I think it just a little bit of cropping, a little bit of moving around, seeing what happened. I would have started to move maybe a little further behind them. I might have even gone with a vertical crop and try to get both paraglides and the people watching them in a straight, nice vertical something.
Right.
But yeah, that's
all right. Don, what do you got?
So I would have taken the shot as well. But then immediately after I took this image, I would have realized that, okay, it should probably be a vertical composition with me running quickly to my right to reconnect the opening in the sky that we see on the left-hand side with the paragliders, whatever these people are. I've never done it, so I don't know the proper term. But with the people watching, and I love that there's some mist around. That's really important for me. But I want them to be more connected with that open sky, and so that means a physical movement of me after I take this picture. This is my safety net shot. I take this. Good to go. I'm happy with it. How can I improve it? Think quickly, because everything is dynamic. They are not sitting still. And so neither should I. I should take that photograph and just keep moving. A process that I typically do is after I take an image that I think is the best one, I don't just stop and chimp on it. I just keep shooting, and knowing that I got something close there, I can check it later, but the action is still happening right now. And so you have to then readjust yourself and think on the fly based on what you saw in the viewfinder, how you can possibly improve that as the shot continues. And There's some processing here that was done to really sort of embolden the sky. And while I appreciate that, it has to be applied sparingly or locally, especially around the larger...
You just took my big one. Darn it.
Sorry. Okay. I'll shut up, Steve. Why don't you take it from there?
No. Go. Because you're going to say it better than me.
So you've got the main paraglider that, like, they appear to be in silhouette, and the outer edge of their parachute is kind of darker than it should be. And that's kind of an indication that the clouds have been processed to bring up the best of them. But that one person has been affected by those adjustments to a greater degree than they should have. And you can see the clouds right above them. They get kind of blotchy in a weird way because they feel like they've been over-processed in that way. And whatever the camera sensor is doing here with whatever camera this was, what's it, a Canon 700D, it's got this weird, almost a moire, almost Newton ring-like pattern that connects the first, the higher up paraglider to the lower one. And it's this weird banding in the clouds that is kind of connecting the two of them together that might have been so subtle, completely unnoticeable, unprocessed. But now I'm seeing that. And just like the dust spot on the left-hand side of the frame in that cloud, once I see it, I can't unsee it. And so it's all about the finesse of local adjustment in order to, yes, enhance the clouds just as they are, but make sure that the areas that have no detail don't get pushed beyond their limits where the edit becomes visible.
Yeah. And first of all, cool place. Would have taken this shot too. I do like that you kept the highlights pretty well in the clouds. Mm-hmm. It's just what Alan said. You also lost a lot of the texture in a lot of the places that are really, really white. The sky thing is a big thing to me. So if you look at how dark the blue area of the sky is in the upper right compared to on the left where you have a big area of blue, right next to the clouds though, suddenly the sky is really dark. And this mismatch and then the blackness that's in some of the clouds but not in others is just not really supernatural, the way that is looking. The hang gliders themselves, the one that's closer to us, the bigger one, is way too in shadow. I wish I could see the person a little bit on that. I don't need that much sky. I wouldn't mind a little bit more land, actually. And the people that are sitting on the bench, like Don said, if you move to the right, that would also bring them into the rule of third a little bit. It would also bring the closer, bigger hang glider off to the left rule of third a little bit. I think all of that would help with compositional structure. I just think it needs to be tightened is really a good way to word it. If you cropped in a little bit from the left and down, that would immediately even help it. But to me, also a big one, though, is shadow recovery on the actual glider that's closer to us. I think that would actually really help as well. Next one up is for Dawn, and it is called Autumn in the Park.
You know, I have a confession to make, Steve. I love fisheye imagery. I mean, to a point, though. I mean, you don't want to see a whole portfolio of it because that's nauseating. Right. But once in a while, to see something in a composition like this, I love the possibilities that a fisheye lens can create. And I think by the description, this was a lens baby fisheye. And if you dig in deep enough and find the clues, this was in Stanley Park. But the idea, and I've done some fisheye imagery before, both fully circular and rectilinear. And I've photographed the same subjects in very similar ways. And I found with my own experience that pointing the camera straight up and having all of the vertical lines of the trees converge from the edges of the frame towards the center of the frame make a really wonderful abstract image. And that's not to say that this is bad, but you have this path in front of you. And so that is a main leading line within the frame, but it's less contrasty than all of the trees around. And it doesn't really connect up to the tree canopy. And I'm not saying that this composition is bad. I would have taken the shot as well, because I would have been throwing my camera in every single angle to see what's going to work. And if I saw this as an image, I would have thought to myself, okay, I know how fisheye lenses work. I know that there's a dramatic shift in how big something is right close to the foreground versus something far away. Do I have any props on me? I mean, it could even be my own shoes, throwing them into the frame. And what would the story be of a discarded pair of running shoes along a path that would be so big in the foreground that they would be a dominant component in the image and they would be an actor within the frame.
A pair of pants would add comedy.
Yeah, sure.
Just saying.
Or my entire set of clothing,
Yes.
right? And so then who knows what the photographer is wearing at that time. The point is that you can add in something into the frame, especially when you're dealing with a fisheye lens, because of that exorbitantly enlarged foreground compared to the stuff that's in the background. And we don't see any attempt at that within a photograph like this. That brings the idea of thinking about a narrative into the image creation process. And the narrative can create or can involve natural subjects. We have the path. It's non-natural to begin with. So it's already a human element. Can you add another human element to it? And that's what I would start in that sort of creative gears grinding in my mind. What do I have? Even throwing my camera bag or a tripod or something, like the vision of a photographer, just put some story into the frame and think of what all the possible stories around you could be. If you're traveling with somebody else, throw them into the shot, make them run and do a heel click or something. Because it's the kind of environment that I would want to do that in, and just tell the story that needs to be told.
Alan, what about you?
So two things. I take fisheye photos very sparingly because I think you either have really close to something or really far away. It's just like middle ground fisheye just looks like boring wide angle. I like the shot. There's just two things that really stood out to me. The first one was I don't think the horizon is straight. It seems like it's slightly tilted. And so it makes me keep wanting to move my head.
To the left, right?
To the left, yeah. I keep wanting to like kind of
to the left, right? Yeah, okay.
And I'm just like, huh? Yeah. Like and when you have these trees that are curving around your whole image, being slightly off center, it really feels off center. So it makes me stop looking at it and trying to, make my head straight or something. Right. Now I didn't think of throwing, shoes in here or a setting, but what went through my head was I would definitely have come in here and worked on dodging and burning again on the path, because you've got these spots that are lighter and then you've got the areas around them that are slightly darker, but they're too close together for it to really be something of a path. So right now it just looks like ground and some trees. So I would have really tried to make that path stand out more, so your eye is drawn from the foreground into the image, into those trees in the background. And then if you try to escape, you can't, because as your eye goes up, those trees kind of bring you back into the picture. And it would have been a stronger idea of where's this path going? Why am I looking at this picture? What's going on here? And the nice part about that is you can do all the stuff you want when you're out there, and you can try it as much as you like. You can also take this now into an editing program and try to kind of tweak it. Unless you're submitting this to the Associated Press, there's no reason you shouldn't be able to come in and dodge and burn and play with the contrast a little bit and get that path so it really looks like there's a path going, that you're trying to follow through the picture.
Okay, so I'm more with Alan on this one. I love the idea of this. I'm usually not a fan of circular fisheyes. I actually like this shot a great deal. I love the kind of low position down near the path. But to me, I'm with Alan. I don't need a real human, artifact or subject in there. The path, to me, where the path is going, is the story. And you need to emphasize that with dodging and burning and make it clearly a curved S-curve type path that's leading through. The processing needs to be easier, though. So you've got the purple line, right?
Oh, yeah.
Chromatic aberration running around the side. The sky is blotchy in the middle. I didn't look at what time of day this was, but time of day, man. If this was just a better time of day with less overhead light, warmer light, I think it would be really, really cool. By the way, with the circular edge and the purple that's there, just crop it out. Just go into Photoshop, do a radial, perfect circle radial. 5 pixels in probably would get rid of that purple if you don't want to actually try and clean it up, although there are methods to do that. But
my preferred method, Steve, is
what is it?
color noise reduction in Lightroom. or in Camera Raw is what I would use, on a duplicated layer, crank it all the way to the maximum, the detail to the lowest, the smoothness to the maximum, like just make it as harsh as possible, and just paint it in along the outer edge. And it will remove the deviant colors in that area. You might even double up on the filter setting, just run it again in order to make it more pronounced, and it just removes that color effect without affecting much else.
Okay. Yeah, I like that one. Yeah. So quick break time, and then we've got 4 more images to get through. We're talking a lot on these images today, and I love it because, like I said at the beginning, it's just a really interesting set of images, I think, today. Alan Hess, the amazing Alan Hess. Alan, for those of you that don't know, as I said earlier, legendary music photographer.
In my own mind.
Photographer. What's the name of the arena now? Because it's changed over the years.
It's now called the Pechanga Arena San Diego. It's the San Diego Sports Arena.
Right. It's a big arena.
It's the arena, yeah.
Yeah. And Alan literally wrote the book on live music photography. And a bunch of other books, some great pet photography books. What are some of the books that you would want people to know about?
Well, recently I've the concert one is probably and will always be my favorite book ever. It's called All Access, your Backstage Pass to Concert Photography. And it does not teach you how to get a backstage pass, contrary to one of the reviews I read recently on Amazon. But that's my concert photography book. It's probably the thing I like the most. It's probably the one I'm proudest of, just because it was a labor of intense love, because as Steve will tell you, there's not a whole lot of money in concert photography. So to convince a publisher that it was worth doing a book took some doing. But recently I've been doing some books for Rocky Nook. There's a couple. The last one was Make Great Photos, which is just a basic intro guide for people, especially if they got like a new camera for Christmas and they don't really know what they're doing. So that's under Rocky Nook. And honestly, the last year I have been working on helping some other authors edit and finish up some books on cameras, including the new Olympus, some Nikon stuff. So it's been kind of, the last year has just been a little bit under the radar, working on things. But Nook is my current publisher, and so if you go to their website, you will find not only books by me, but books by a lot of my good friends on a variety of subjects.
Okay.
So that's,
Again, go follow Alan. You can find him everywhere. Somebody said that the shot of the three of us, I've got a sound problem, so I'm working on that while you guys are talking.
Oh.
Don, tell everybody what you've been doing with Photo Geek Weekly and all your podcasts and all your DP review stuff.
Well, we're going to be doing an episode of Photo Geek Weekly coming up after this at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific time. So I'd encourage anybody watching this to tune in on that. And Steve, you can grab the link to that. I put it in the chat. I posted it on Twitter, so you can grab it from there if you have a moment. I know you're busy fixing other things, and I'm making you multitask. But the idea of Photo Geek Weekly is just the news stream of the week, just total geekery about whatever that is. We dig under the hood and we opine for an hour and a bit usually on that. DP Review TV, I just had a new episode that came out about how to photograph snowflakes, which I was so lucky when Jordan Drake was here in February of 2020, right before everything started to lock down, that, we were here to film a couple of episodes of DP Review TV, and it started snowing. So we just switched gears. We ran outside. We filmed that episode. Turned out phenomenal. If you want to know how to photograph snowflakes, and you're in a part of the world where it is snowy and cold right now, and you might be disillusioned, you don't want to pick up your camera right now because the world is in not the greatest place, watch that video because there is so much magic right outside your back door. And all the while, I'm finishing up my macro photography book, The Universe at Our Feet, and I am in the final mile of that. In fact, I was just editing the snowflake section of that book and providing all of the images and creating the infrastructure to throw those up online so people can follow along. That is me, and you can find me predominantly at doncom.ca, donkom.ca.
Okay, and I just have to mention, in the chat, absolutely honored, the one and only Dave Clayton. Folks, if you look at Alan's shirt, Alan is wearing an HSHD shirt. That is, he shoots, he draws. one of, hands down, the best podcast you will ever get. A graphic designer and a photographer, and Alan and Dave are the hosts of that show. Do me a favor. Go check out He Shoots, He Draws, because it is an amazing show. Dave, I am so honored that you would stop by. Also, people, let me know. I adjusted some sound settings. I'm hoping that the audio is more even. I'm bringing them in on the same feed and then me and trying to level them, and it's a work in progress, as it were. Let's jump into our next image, and on this one, I will go first. It is 'Tis the Season. And first of all, to the person who made this image, great idea, right? This is a door. You can see the door knocker. Above it, you can see the peephole. The door owner that wrapped their door like this absolutely loved the idea. And the photographer for coming up with the idea of making this into a picture, not just walking by it as you walked in, right? But thinking about making it a picture and your composition on this. I can see the texture in the door. I can see the texture in the ribbon. Couple of things I would like to see. First of all, you put a vignette on it. And that actually takes me out of the effect you're trying to give me that this is a gift. It's too heavy in all the corners. It doesn't blend smooth. There's just a couple of things about that vignette that is kind of distracting almost to me. The door knocker, however, is too bright. And I'd like that to be burned down. Same with the peephole. The metal on those is a little too reflective and too bright to me. And the last thing for me, because I love this shot, this is really cool to me, is, and I understand it's real, right? When you put a peephole through a door, it has a metal flange that when you tighten it, sucks into the wood of the door a little bit. And so outside the brass of the peephole, there are lines where that metal ring is pushed in, but the ring has been painted. I would actually remove those lines so all I saw was the dome sticking out. That's pretty much it for me. Alan, what do you got?
I love this shot. And I walked around last time I was in London a couple of years ago. Half the photos in my when I came back from walking around were of doors. Door knockers. There's just, I like photographing.
I did
doors.
the same there.
So I'm like, this to me, this was great. And I get it. You saw the door, you photographed the door, not your door. You didn't want to go touch stuff. I would have gone and moved that little ribbon so it wasn't quite on the door knocker. Maybe I could have just moved it just a little off of it. If it was just off by, like, if I had done this and it was myself, I'd have broken out the scissors and just trimmed off like 1/8 of an inch of the ribbon just so that it wasn't overlapping the door knocker. I would have tried to have it just off. But that's just literally in my head.
You could probably just crease it and tape it behind there.
Yeah, I mean, literally, it would have been like it. Everything about it, I think, is really well done. The person who wrapped the door did it originally has way more skill than I'll ever have with wrapping anything. So I'm in awe. And the vignette is a little heavy. I wouldn't have even bothered with that at all. I know it's probably something that you just like is done to all the pictures, but it doesn't need it. And I got to disagree, Steve. I don't actually think that the door knocker and brass is a little too bright. I like the pop it gives. Out of all the images, this right off the bat was the one that I'm like, dude, other than the fact that it just overlaps that just a little bit, which there's probably my ADD, something about, I have to have all the books lined up and I don't like things overlapping stuff unless it's really overlapping is the only thing here that is, that bothers me. And that, again, is not something that I think the photographer had any control over or could do anything about. So do not go and start screwing with people's doors without being invited. What I'm telling anyone to do. That's it.
You could get hurt.
You can get hurt, but I honestly, I think this is a great picture. And coming up with that beautiful crop, it looks like a perfectly wrapped package, I think is fantastic.
I have to say, Dave made a great comment in the chat. An Englishman hearing someone say they love photographing knockers will always make us giggle over here. Just sorry, I had to throw that one in. It just needed to be done. Don, what do you got?
Okay, so Alan said that you seek permission first, but the door knocker actually gives you permission. It's Scots Gaelic, and I was looking this up as we were doing this, and it said it in the description saying that it means 100,000 welcomes, and my research in this brief period of time says that it means 1,000 welcomes, but the individual words, one is permission and one is welcome, which kind of gives you the sort of permission to enter in a way. I'm trying to dissect Gaelic here. So maybe the permission is on the knocker itself. And again, you Brits are probably laughing at that statement right now. But the idea is that those words, they stood out to me because I didn't know what they meant. And I knew that it was in another language, and I had to go through that extra mile to research exactly what that was going to be. And it's two hands reaching towards a heart, like it's a symbol of welcoming and of love and compassion. I like that. That is such a powerful element, especially being wrapped in a present. Now you'll notice too that the ribbon, as the vertical line goes at the very bottom, the bottom parts of the ribbon, the one is a little bit further off to the right towards where the door knocker is. And maybe it could be just that I grab that flower on the top and just twist it a little bit, just to turn it away, because it looks like it could be balanced in the other direction as easily as it's balanced in this direction to make that work. Final thought. I don't know what color the door is. It almost feels like it's a white balance error with such a bright red color, and the slightly off, it's a purplish. I have no frame of reference for what that color should be, because the flower in the center of the red might not be perfectly white either. And it doesn't feel like I have a proper anchor point for a neutral color in the frame, which could be the door itself. So I might try to adjust that, which would make the other elements of the frame more interesting by neutralizing the color on the paint of the door.
Nice, nice. Okay, so we got 3 more images, and I'm not going to lie, this next image, all right, Alan's going to go first on this next image, and that is not accidental, because Alan knows every amazing fashion photographer that's out there. I know, I'm sorry. I had to, dude. I had to. But I am dying to know what Alan has to say about dance.
All right, so this person's got some skill and they got some talent, but this shot drives me. It's been driving me crazy since I saw it last night. And I did the math. I was like, I'm going to do this one. Oh no, Steve, you know. There's a couple of things that really bother me about this image. It's well done. The pose is probably good. I'm not a dancer, so I've worked with dancers, and there's something I've learned work with dancers is that you make sure that the dancer okays the image before it ever goes anywhere and anyone ever sees it, because there's some weird difference between a wrist being turned 35 degrees and a wrist being turned 37 degrees, and they'll notice it immediately, and other people in dance notice it. So I'm going to just assume that everything on here is perfect for the dance and the pose is exactly what they want. What I'm bothered by is that it seems like there's 2 completely weird different light sources. There's one coming down on the dancer, and then there's one outside, and they're competing because nothing from the outside is coming inside, which is why I have this really dark area on the leg that's in front of the window, and I can barely even see the other foot. So I know light drops off, but I'm like, I feel like it's 2 photos that have been put together because they could have been, not that they should have been. Like, I don't need the light and the window and all that stuff behind her. She's great the way she is. That whole window with the stuff behind it is really just distracting for me. Without, I love the colors. I love the textures. The processing, is good. I've been zooming in and zooming out on this thing a lot. There's probably, some editing that could be done on the dress. Some of the wrinkles maybe could have been, done. But to me, the biggest problem is that I don't quite, the 2 parts of the image are just not matching up to me. They're not working together to make a cohesive image that's telling me something. I keep switching between what's going on outside and what's going on inside. And it's, yeah.
I hear you. Don, what do you got?
I want to echo those 2 statements. I think that there's I mean, there's two light sources, and then there's an editing issue here. First of all, I love the background, and assuming that the pose of the dancer is what she wants, that it looks good to me. I'm not a dancer. I don't know exactly what that's supposed to be. But around the leg that is up and on a 90-degree angle at the knee, I can see that the background in around that area is brighter and less contrasty than any other part of that background. And that tells me that something was done in editing that left that brighter because they didn't want to grunge up the leg. But it's kind of showing itself as sort of like an exclusion zone with a feather where they didn't apply the same thing in that area. And so that could have taken a little bit of extra finesse to make sure that the background was all consistent through the windows. But if you look underneath the dancer, there's a spotlight directly down underneath the dress, and yet there's another one on the wall behind her. So that tells me that there's two interior lights based on what I'm seeing here, unless there was some editing done in order to make it assume that. But it's that background in the window, that one spot around the leg that doesn't have the same contrast as everything else. It sort of pulls me out of the moment. And just on a technical pixel peeping level, because you know I do this, Steve. In the
no, yeah, okay.
In the background, right above the dancer, the wall has a lot of vertical lines, very subtle. They almost feel like noise, but there's a lot of noise-like vertical lines in the background, right above the dancer. That just feels like something went wrong in post. That I don't think that's anything to do with...
Where are you pointing at there?
Oh, yeah.
Directly above the top hand, above the model's head.
I had that too.
Yep.
And it's not going to come through the video, but it's almost like vertical scratches.
Yeah, but it feels very digital. Like it's so linear that it's not going to be part of the environment. It had to have been something in post. So I want to point out those post things, as I usually do, only because if I can say, oh, you did a great job editing this image, it means I can detect that you edited a photograph, and I should not be able to see it at all. And if I can find little cracks in that reality, it breaks the reality down.
Okay.
But I still like the photo.
My first thought when I saw this was it's a cool room, right? With the triplet window, although it goes on beyond that because that's clearly not the edge of the window on the left. And the wall texture is kind of cool. And then I went, wait a minute. Is this an M.C. Escher drawing? And no one else mentioned it. But if you look, the wall behind her goes down, hits a corner, and comes out to a floor. Well, the window is on the same wall. So why is there no corner at the bottom of the wall under the window? Okay?
Yeah,
well, Steve, okay, hold on a second. You've just pointed me out to something. There is a very, very thin line along the right edge of the window in the upper corner that is sharper than anything else in the background. It's a really thin line, and it's a tiny little dark line, but it should not be that sharp, which then tells me that the window's a composite.
Still, if you're going to composite it, that line, that intersection of the wall and the floor behind her, which is a clear corner, needs to continue under the window, that being my point. If that window is going to be on that wall, then that wall under the window also has to have a corner to the floor. That's number one. Your dress color choice against this wall, I actually think is fantastic, right? I think it contrasts well against the wall, and I'm colorblind, but I love the color of that. Your vertical lines are not straight. In fact, the perspective on the window, if you composited the whole window in, the perspective's wrong. So the top of the window is actually wider than the bottom of the window, and the lines on the left, the top line is level, but the line on the left, there's more room, like left of the window, there's like a seam and then the frame of another window. There's more room at the top than there is at the bottom. You need to make sure that that's true if you're going to do this and put it in there. And to Alan's point, yeah, this is two different white balances. The sky is completely off. The sky doesn't look natural to what I'm seeing in the room. There's something really, really weird there. There are black dots on the floor below her that are not, they don't look like sensor dust. I mean, they're black. So I would make sure that you fix that. And last thing, the hand positions. Okay, if these are honest hand positions for a dance, forgive me. In particular, camera right, her left hand, that is a very unflattering hand pose, right? I understand you want to be accurate, but then you have to put her at an angle where the correct dance hand position is accurate. If you're just calling it dance, but she's really just a model and you did it because she looks like she's dancing, you need to get those hand positions much cleaner and much more flattering to this young lady. And I think you processed her face way more than the rest of her. And it's too much dodging, burning, and skin smoothing on the face for me.
She's not on that background.
No, she's been dropped in.
Right. And you did a really good job of doing that on most of it. But if you look at the hand that's above her head, between her thumb and her finger, you left the white background in there.
Yeah, I see it.
Wait. Oh my God, you're right.
So
there it is.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's good. Everything else was really good. I didn't catch it. But when I started looking for the vertical lines that Dom was talking about, I suddenly realized she's got a little white area. So, yeah, I mean, you got the hair really nicely cut out. So, and the dress, you know, but you missed a spot.
I actually think that the sky was composited onto the window too.
Oh, yeah. That's
yeah. I mean,
the sky isn't natural through those windows as well. No. So, all right, let's jump to the next one. This one is going to be dawn, and it is called Early Morning Madagascar.
Well, I mean, regardless of where it is, I mean, Madagascar might have some meaning with the ridiculously long stick. You know, whether that's to move the boat around when the water level changes, or I have no knowledge of what it is, but I'm fascinated by it. Now, I do note that this is taken with a Panasonic FZ8, which is a fixed lens kind of portable camera, but it's got this grain effect, which is probably added in post, and obviously black and white treatment as well to make it look more like a film image. I don't think that hurts the image. In fact, I think it adds some value to just the simplicity of the shot. No color is needed in this image. I love that you have this mist that echoes along the very straight, calm waves in the foreground, with the people breaking the mist and the mist rising above them to some blackness and more mist above. It's just the layers of this image work really, really well for me. You know, I normally think, okay, you know, rule of odds, you know, 3 is better than 4, but really you have 3 people that are sitting and the 4th one is an outlier. And so that 4th person doesn't really equate to that same rule. And I think that it still works really well.
I actually think the 4th person is what makes the rule of odds.
Yeah. I don't know how much more I can say about this image without taking any thunder from other people, but I like it. I like the composition. I don't know if I would change much about it. If anything, I might narrow in the edges just a little bit to make it more of a deliberate vertical, to really feel the sense, maybe just on the left side so that you still have room to move on the right side. But just so that it really feels like there's such depth going through the frame without taking anything from the place that they're going into.
Okay, so seriously, this is probably going to be the shortest thing I've ever said on an image on this show, because I love this. The black and white choice on this is absolutely spot on. Color would have been a distraction to the story that I'm seeing here, and your use of grain, I think, is brilliant here. It's the right amount of grain. It's heavy, but it's filmish. I really like what you did. The things that I would say I would like to see changed: I wish the subject was not centered. I wish the subject was a little more left, which gets to what Don said, crop a little from the left to move the boat to the left, so they've got room to move. A little less highlights. I mean, the brightness is a little harsh, not horrible, but, you know, okay. And again, for me, I think this would just be interesting. This is one of those images where it never hurts to take every angle that you and every orientation that you can while you're doing it. I'm hoping you took both a portrait and a landscape orientation, because I want to see where they're going. And I think a landscape orientation would help with that. You know, Alan?
Yeah, this is a great shot. And the only thing I would have done is crop in a little bit from the left, getting rid of a little bit of the top, that little bright area right on the top left. And I would have put them a little closer to the left edge so that they had more place to go. But this is one of those things that happened in front of you. So I know that if this would have happened in front of me, there would have been the next 600-700 images would have been as I'm running down the bank trying to get every angle on this, this boat, this trip. Are they going fishing? Are they just going across the river? I mean, I have no idea what they're doing, but I would have been absolutely intrigued. And this is an image I could sit and stare at for a long time. I just would have, I think it's a little too bright in the top left corner.
Yeah.
I think if you just come in, if you just crop it in a little bit, then you give them a little more space to go. They're not dead center. And yeah, I mean, I started looking at what would I have done to this? And I keep thinking, I wouldn't. No. Okay, maybe I would. No, I wouldn't have done that. And then I'm back right where you are. I mean, yeah, a little bit of crop. It's
the only thing that
really
I might
good.
add to that, Alan, is if you're familiar with film, black still has grain. Like the darkest blacks, when you raise the noise floor a little bit, you're going to increase the grain. And the darkest area of the person standing up, above their waistline, through to their hands, and the big stick doesn't really matter, but that one big blotch of area is solid black. And so I might actually add a little bit of grain into that area. Not so much that it's terribly noticeable, but just to lift it away from a blob of black in order to match the rest of the composition.
Yeah, totally agree. And real quick, we've got one more image. And before I jump into it, because I know everybody's been hanging out for a long time, I really appreciate it. I love it when the maker of a shot is actually here in the chat, and the maker of dance, Kunal, is here and said, thanks for the pointers on the photograph, which is dance. It helps me a lot. And really, honestly, Kunal and everybody who's participated in this so far, seriously, thank you so much for participating. I can't say it enough because I believe you can learn from your own shot, but you can also learn from everybody's shot. And so it's really cool that everybody is participating here. Let's jump to the last one. This one is called Tire Center. Alan, you want to go first on this one?
No, but I will.
We can switch if you want. Don can go first.
Go ahead, Don.
Don,
okay,
kick it in.
I like the fact that we've got some geometry here, and I like the fact that it's broken. The paint on the left side of the door is quite broken, and it's been chipping and what have you, and so there's a diminishment of the quality there compared to the other side, and so that relates useful. I also like the fact, in terms of a narrative, there's tires in front of the door. The door looks like it swings outward, but it wouldn't be able to with the tires in their current position. And so that to me,
I think the door looks like an indoor swinging door.
Well, okay, maybe
it's still blocking the door.
Yeah, but it is still blocking it.
Yeah. And so compositionally, regardless of how you think the door opens, you've got that one obstruction within the doorway, which makes it feel sort of derelict, sort of something that doesn't, it's not well cared for, it's not well manicured, and I like that effect. But to me, what I've just described around the frame, the chipping paint on one side, not on the others, the tires right around the door. In fact, there's kind of a little pathway that you could get through if you just really didn't care. That center part of the frame, that does it for me. The larger frame with the vertical lines going up, they don't connect anywhere. It's just wasted negative space, as we talked about on the blue sky in an earlier image. And so to have that in the frame doesn't pull me back down to where all of the happenings are within the image. And so I pointed out those visual ingredients, and I typically shoot based on that style of identifying the visual ingredients, seeing how I can combine them together and make sure that it's just them in the frame in a subtractive way. So I would have shot this closer. In my opinion, I like the subject, the idea of a not necessarily derelict, but I don't know. It seems like there's a certain amount of procrastination in this image, and procrastination is sometimes a hard thing to visualize. And I think this image does it well if you frame it properly. So there's my thoughts.
So all right, so minimalist to me is always cool. I love minimalist. I love the scene choice, your choice of wall, with the torn up paint, with the different colors. Awesome. I actually don't even mind how much room you have above the door. This is one of those things where I think the lines in the wall add to the negative space. Like we were talking about earlier, if it's dead sky, it's dead, but this has texture there. The white border, however, completely sucks me out of the picture. This does not need white matting, right? White framing around it. Choose a color that doesn't, your eye's always drawn to the brightest thing. And I'm actually drawn to your matting as you matted the picture basically with a canvas matte type thing. So be careful of that. That said, the door, I wish the door was more left to balance it. If you're going to leave this crop, right? More highlight control on the left of the door, the ridges of those those, the lines going up the wall are a little bit clipped. I would do that. I would even probably, the water spout that's on the right, it's actually a double water spout. I would probably clone that out, or I would move everything to the left so that balanced the door on the rule of thirds type thing. The concrete is too bright to me. Do a gradient on the concrete to burn that concrete down a little bit, but without affecting the tires. In other words, don't do it globally, but like a gradient so you can control it a little bit more. And here's the thing with the crop. I don't like the half tire on the right. Either remove the half tire on the right.
For Alan, Steve.
Oh, sorry about that.
It's all right. I gave up my first.
I love the half tire on the right. No, so I would either remove it, or to Don's point, if you cropped right at the edge of the tire next to it that's flat, if you crop just to the right of that flat tire and just a couple of bars to the left of the far left tires and brought everything down proportionally, that would move everything where I talked about. It would tighten it up like Don said, and boom, at that point, I think you've got the image right there. Alan?
Yeah, the first thing was that tire. So if I would have seen this and come across this, and I like the shot, I like kind of urban decay, and it reminds me a lot of like Paris used to do these reused way back when, and there was a lot of urban decay shots in there. I just love them because I never see them myself. For some reason, I walk by that and never notice it. So when I see someone doing this, I'm like, wow, that's, I need to open my eyes more. But if I would have walked up to this and realized I was going to take this shot, I probably would have gone and moved that tire, like just literally physically picked it up and
why not?
Dragged it over the other side of the door. I would have.
Whoever put them there doesn't care about their position.
Oh, that's a really good point, though, Alan. If you took that half a tire and moved it to the open spot on the left, boom, your framing is okay.
Yeah, I would have. That's the first thing that would have come to mind. Is like I don't want to be dragged out of the frame, And there's times you want to do that where you have a repeating pattern, so your brain goes, "Oh, that pattern goes on forever." So your white matting destroys that concept because you've blocked my repeating pattern of the uprights. But the tire also, I would have moved the tire over to the other side. That's the first thing. The other thing is the concrete is a little too bright, and this area right below the big pile of tires is too dark for me. I would have opened the shadows up a little bit just so I could get a little more, and I'm not zoomed in real close on that, but there's something in there. I can see one of the tire treads, but I would have just looks a little dark to me, especially with the uprights being so bright. The edges of the metal building is reflecting on that light, and it's clipped. I mean, it's pure white. So if you're going to do that, at least open up some of the shadows so I feel like I'm looking at a brighter scene. But with that really dark shadow underneath the pile of tires, and especially the bright lines right around the door on the left side, I'm like, I feel there's something a little off. It just feels off. So but I like this. I would have, again, I think there's too much gray on the top part. I would have probably cropped down a little bit.
Although, Alan, I will say, if you do put the tire on the left-hand side or out of the frame, put it back to where it was. You're subtly gaslighting the person that goes into this door every day and thinks that they're losing their mind because the positions of the tires are always changing.
Leave no trace. It's the mantra for all photography. Leave no trace. So to everybody, just some killer shots today, man. And even the ones, understand that when we do this type of critique type thing, the shots are in here for us to make suggestions on how those shots can be, I don't want to say, made better, but, be elevated up to the next level of what that shot has potential for, or things that might not have been obvious to the maker. So the whole goal at that point is to say some things. And when you put your shot in here, we say it all caring about it. In many cases, we're saying things that we think can be improved, but it's important to understand, doesn't mean we didn't love the shot as it was. right? We just think that it might be able to be elevated a little bit. I think that's a good way to word it. Alan Hess, dude, I'm so glad that I finally got you on here. Where can people find you?
The best place is just Instagram at Alan Hess. Right now, it's probably the safest place to see me. It's the less political, less rant and raving, more photos. So let's go with Instagram at Alan Hess.
Okay.
That's probably the...
Yeah, he's shot live photo on Twitter, but it's more personal opinion stuff there. If you want photography, go to Instagram, Alan Hess. Alan Hess Photography is the website. Website. What was that? Website.
Well, that's pretty much what my website is right now. Yeah, it needs to be updated. I understand it. But if you do go to alanhessphotography.com, there's a list of all the books. There's a list of all the things. It just honestly just has not been updated. 2020 was not the year for that to happen. So 2021 will probably be it.
And let's say again, He Shoots, He Draws podcast with Dave Clayton, who is in here. Dave, thank you so much for stopping by. Gary, Rich, Arsene is in here too. And then Drake and Jane. And somebody just commented, they're the ones who made the tire shot. Who was that? Oh, it was Rich. Every time I pass by this place, it has new tires scattered. So thanks for the critique. You're welcome. We appreciate your participating. Don Komarechka, where can people find you? And be sure to tell them about your live thing coming up next.
Yes, well, Photo Geek Weekly is coming up at the top of the hour. Steve, I don't know if you put a link into the chat, but anybody that's listening to this one, please tune in for that one, because Steve and I will be opining on the photo industry, whether it be tech or legal or ethics or whatever it is we come up with on a weekly basis. It's fun. I think it is, and people still listen. So I'm assuming that there is a certain contingent of the population that agree. So Photo Geek Weekly is where you can find that. And then find me at doncom.ca for my portfolio, where you can get in touch with me, find a link to my upcoming book. I recorded an episode of DP Review TV in February that is out now on their channel about photographing snowflakes almost a year later. And I have my studio set up right now to do a video on diffraction, to explain that with a ripple tank and lasers and pinholes and camera examples and all sorts of stuff to really distill down diffraction into a less than 10-minute video that everybody can understand. And that will be coming out on that DP Review TV channel sometime very soon, probably in about 2 weeks.
And so, again, there's another one, DP Review TV on YouTube. If you're not subscribed there, make sure you do. Real quick before we leave, Alan, by the way, what's the website for He Shoots, He Draws?
That's a good question. Just type in He Shoots, He Draws. You'll find it.
Wherever you get your podcasts.
Yeah. I mean, it's on all the... so here's the deal. So Dave runs He Shoots, He Draws, and I've been helping out Dave in 2020 because pandemic, and I love talking to him, and we chat about stuff. And it's his baby, and I'm jumping on to now help him with some of the interviews and things. So I don't have all that stuff on the top of my head yet. I'm getting there. It's coming in. I'm wearing the clothes. I'm starting to add it to my profiles.
You're being indoctrinated.
Yeah. I mean, listen, Dave and I have been friends for over 10 years. We still chat. I probably chat to him more than anyone else, and he doesn't even live in this country. So,
well, and I was on the show once with, not at the time with Glenn, it was just Dave, and absolutely had a blast. One of the nicest people you'll meet in photography. So again, to everybody, make sure you check out He Shoots, He Draws with Alan. Check out, of course, Don's show, and we're doing a live one coming up, but you can subscribe to it anywhere that you get podcasts. Make sure you check those out. I do want to remind you, if you are watching this on YouTube, which you will be, the normal podcast is available wherever you get your podcasts, audio or video form, the website behindtheshot.tv. But the critique shows are only here on YouTube, and the normal shows are here on YouTube too. So be sure to subscribe. Make sure that you hit the bell. Choose all so that you get notified each and every time that we do something new on the show. If you want to participate in this, head on over to Flickr. Sign up for a free account or a paid account. They could use the money, so do the paid account if you can, and because they're great people over at Flickr. And then
they are now.
Join the Behind the Shot group there and start submitting your pictures. At that point, you're just playing in the pool, right? It's community. We're having fun. But if you want your shots to be considered for the critique shows, we can't get to all of them, I apologize. But if you want your shots to be considered for the critique shows, make sure that you tag them with a Flickr tag, not a hashtag, a Flickr tag, btscritique. And that puts them in the search results that we search for. And we're doing this once a month right now with a different guest panelist each and every time. So once again, as always, thank you so much to the guest that we had today. Again, one of my heroes in live music photography, Alan Hess. And to Don, as always, thank you. To everybody, make sure that you check out each and every show. And we will see you on the next Behind the Shot.